Hello everyone.
Hello everyone. How's everyone doing today? Can I have a louder yes?
Are you guys doing great today? Are you guys excited?
That's good.
We have the level 1 and level 2 competition rounds today. Are you guys going to ace the tests? Can I hear a louder yes?
Wonderful. That's amazing. As you all know, I'm Harpith.
And I'm Harpita.
And we are popularly known as the Great Australian Spelling Bee Twins. You can search the Great Australian Spelling Bee on Google and YouTube, and you can find a lot of information about us. We are also Victorian Spellmasters champions and the founders of Classminds. We are extremely delighted to welcome all of you students to the orientation session of Velammal Spell Bee 2022 powered by Classminds.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. And first of all, we would like to extend our thanks to Velammal Group of Institutions, Chairman, Director, Sir, Principal of Velammal Ology Tech School, Jamina Ma'am, Navanitha Ma'am, and the whole team that was involved for making this learning opportunity possible for students across the state. In fact, we received around 4,000 registrations from 30 plus schools across the state, and it is something that is so amazing because this has been the vision of Harpith and I when we started Classminds. We wanted to make an impact on a mass amount of students, and that is what we are seeing here today. Thank you all so much for joining us, to the students and the parents who are here today. I can see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of students from different schools. I can see some from PSBB, Campus Gate, Chennai Public School, and many more. And of course, I can see a lot of our students from our Classminds community, which is honestly very amazing. We have been interacting with all of you online for so long. We've done so many workshops, so many spelling bee rounds, but seeing you all here in person is something that is so gratifying. And I think we can definitely take a special group picture after today's competition test, so don't miss out on that. But thank you all so much for joining here today. Now, as we mentioned, today is the level 1 and 2 round of Velammal Spell Bee 2022. And we want to start off right the bat by saying this is not just about the competition. The competition spirit essentially is, it's not just winning or losing the spelling bee. In fact, the real winners aren't just the ones with the trophy in the end. Do you guys know who the real winners are? The real winners are those who gain the most knowledge and the most insight from this learning experience. So each one of you who are developing your vocabulary, who are learning words, you guys are winners there itself. So do not worry about the outcome of this competition. Give your best and try to perform as much as you can.
We strongly believe that learning should not be a one-way journey, and we want to make sure that all of you students develop and master your spelling skills while having a nice learning experience at the same time.
Exactly. So today's orientation session is going to be very interactive. It is not going to be a one-way speech where we're going to be giving you tips or hints. We expect a lot of participation. There are going to be a lot of activities, and we're going to have a lot of volunteers. And we really want you guys to participate because this is not just a spelling bee competition. We want you to work with your peers, to come onto stage, showcase your communication skills, your social skills, and just have fun in this whole experience. So when we call for volunteers, please come up. We don't want there to be any delay. We want this to go as smooth as possible. So are you guys going to be very interactive and participate in today's session? Yes, okay. I see a hand up. Amazing. Love the enthusiasm. Are you guys going to answer all our questions? Yes, okay. Let's see. That's a challenge for all of you. We're going to have a lot of questions throughout today's session. Don't worry, they're not just going to be about words, but very fun things. So I think let's get started, and we'd like to have the presentation displayed on the screen. And while that's getting set up, let's talk about what we're going to look at in today's session. So in today's orientation session, we will be going over some key spelling strategies, that is, key approaches to learn words in the correct way. And these are approaches that Harpith and I personally followed when we were young in order to master vocabulary at such a young age, because it is about learning words in the correct way. So we'll be looking at 4 key spelling strategies, and once we go over those, we will also be looking at some key spelling rules. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, we will be going over some key spelling rules for all of you, just to know how to spell the tricky parts of some words. I have a question for all of you. Now, when you're learning vocabulary, there are some words that seem simple, but there's always that little tricky part. For example, if you take a word such as deceive, and in the word deceive, there's this tricky part that is this IE and EI, and a lot of us get confused. How many of you have faced this problem before?
Can you raise your hand?
A lot of students have their hands up. That's right. So we're going to be looking at a few spelling rules that is going to make it much easier to get very small concepts. I see we have some more students joining us right now. Welcome to all of you, and you can take your seat. We are just about to begin, so do not worry, you haven't missed out on anything.
Now, another important note to students is that all of the key spelling strategies and tricks that you learn in today's session is not just limited to the preparation for your competition rounds, but we want all of you students to use all of these strategies throughout your entire learning journey whenever you're learning words. In this orientation session specifically, we are going to be covering 4 key spelling strategies that will help us avoid this technique called memorization. Now, this brings me to a question. Why is memorization an ineffective technique? Why should we not use memorization to learn words?
I think this is our first question to the audience. Can we have someone volunteer quickly come up and answer? Why do you think memorization is not a good way to learn words?
Can we have one volunteer?
Okay, and we have 2 hands up. Yes, could you please come up? I see Akshij, and I think we have Ashwita. Our Classminds students, please come up. And please introduce yourselves. So tell us your name, your grade, and your school. Let's start with Akshij.
Akshij.
Hi, I'm Akshaj from 3rd standard PSBB Senior Secondary School, Chennai.
Why do you think memorization is ineffective?
I think memorization is not possible because we tend to forget usually.
Wow, that's amazing. Can we have a round of applause
We
for
tend to
Akshij?
forget, he is correct. And we'll talk a bit about this later.
And next, let's have Ashwita.
Please introduce yourself.
I am Ashwita from grade 3. I am from PSBB School, Kekanaga. And why is memorization not allowed? Because if we memorize a word, we can't use the communication when we talk to someone. If we learn words like not memorizing, we can use in some talking when we are doing a usual talking to someone.
All right, we can use words more
good.
effectively in our communication. Thank you so much to the both of you.
Thank you.
Can we have a huge round of applause?
Can we have a round of
You
applause?
can return. All right, so we're expecting almost all of you to come up onto stage by the end of today. We have a lot of questions.
Now, I want to quickly demonstrate on why memorization is such an ineffective approach. And I want to do this by taking 2 common sounds that we see in words. There's the shun sound and there's the zhen sound. How many of you have heard this sound in words? The shun and the zhen sound.
Can you guys yell out some words that have this sound? For example, vacation. Any more words that you can think of?
Station.
Sensation, great.
That's good.
Incubation, okay, wonderful. Communication.
Application. That's
Great,
good.
great, all right.
Operation.
Amazing. I got a lot of different words.
That's right. If I take the word vacation and if I use the technique of memorization to remember this word, I will just remember the letters or the order of the letters without actually knowing why the word is spelled a certain way. If you want an effective approach to learn the word, you should learn the patterns or that technique that you find in words. For example, in vacation, there's a specific ending that is spelled with the letters T-I-O-N. Now, why is vacation spelled as V-A-C-A-T-I-O-N? That is because the shen sound is spelled with 4 letters T-I-O-N. By looking at certain patterns and strategies, then it will be easier for you to spell all of these words. And just like vacation, you do have words that end with S-I-O-N. For example, the word erosion. How many of you have heard of the word erosion before?
It's a bit different. It doesn't end with T-I-O-N, but instead S-I-O-N.
S-I-O-N, that's right. So it's always useful to learn these specific patterns at the end of the words, then it'll be easier for you to spell words in the long term.
Now, just as Akshaj and Ashwita had mentioned, you will not be able to remember words. Now, memorization might help you in the short term, but in the long run, you're not going to remember the words that you learn unless you truly understand the words. That is, understand the meaning of the words. And Ashwita mentioned using words in our daily communication. If you memorize words, you will not remember them to use them in your speaking or in your writing, and that is the most important skill. So that is why we're going to give you an insight as to the different ways and approaches you can use to learn words correctly. And as we mentioned about using words for our communication skills, our writing skills, that proves why spelling bees are so impactful. And I think I mentioned this last time we were here. It's not just about spelling words. The whole aspect of the spelling bee is to create joy in this learning process. But by mastering our fundamentals of the English language, we are setting ourselves up to master other critical life skills. And we tell this to a lot of our parents as an important message because it helps students enrich their communication skills, their collaboration when they work with a group or with their peers, as well as writing skills, debating, and so much more. So all of you in this room today, you all are spellers, but these spelling skills are going to help you do so much more.
Now, without further ado, let's go on to our first key strategy that we are going to learn today.
That's right. So we have a lot of fun activities planned for today. We'll be doing a small demo spell bee at the end as well, just to get you guys accustomed to the oral spelling bee format. And we know how important that is because I think even last time we had mentioned, how many of you have attended a spelling bee but a written test, a written format? I see a few hands up. Now, we've seen many students raise their hands for this question, but when we asked them if they had attended an oral spelling bee, many of them said no. And the reason is because this approach of writing is definitely ineffective. Coming up to stage and spelling tests so much more than just your spelling knowledge. It tests your stage presence, stage fright or fear. You can get rid of all of that and be comfortable in front of hundreds of people by this one activity, which is why it's so important that we wanted this learning experience to be oral. And after the pandemic and long months of waiting, we're so glad that we have finally gotten that perfect opportunity. So let's get started with our first key strategy.
Can we move on to the next slide, please? The next one. The first key strategy that we are going to learn today is curation. Now, I have another question. Does anyone know what the word curation means?
I think some of our Classminds students might be very familiar with this. Any hands up for what curation means?
Curation.
I see Akshay, you have your hand up, Ashwita too, and we have a few more students. Yes, could you please come up? Yep, you've got your hand up from the back. Yes, and I think, okay, Ashwita, you can also come up if you'd like to answer. What is this method of curation? Now, all these approaches that we are telling you are approaches that we have used for ourselves in order to master over 50,000 words in a word bank and do all of that. And people used to ask us, how were you able to do these things? It's not difficult at all. We just learned using the right approaches. Yes, what is curation?
Go ahead.
Curation means a word which should be categorized in a particular category. For example, wolf, I will categorize in an animal category.
Exactly, that's perfect. Can we have a huge round of applause? And yes, could you please come up? Please introduce yourself. Tell us your name, your grade, and your school.
Go ahead.
I am Pratish of grade 4 from Ology Tech School. I think curation means spelling a word in like a correct way, like cinnamon, cinnamon.
Okay, in fact, that isn't curation, but you have reviewed one of our other spelling strategies, which we're going to keep for as a suspense for now. But good try. That is one of our other spelling strategies, and that is breaking words down into smaller parts. We will be looking at that today. Huge round of applause because you mentioned one of the key strategies. So curation is putting words into categories or groups.
Now, why is curation such an effective technique? Because if you put a word into a specific category, for example, if I take the word rosemary, I can put the word rosemary into the herbs and spices category. So with curation, I store the word in a particular category in my mind. So in the future, when I'm asked to spell the word again, I immediately know the definition of this word rosemary, and that helps me spell the word in an easier way.
So essentially, curation helps you remember the definition of the word, and that makes you a lot more confident when you are learning, let's say, hundreds or thousands of words. If you're learning it randomly, it can be very hard. It's not possible to go through all of the definitions, and you don't have to try to memorize the dictionary definitions. In fact, you just need to have a good understanding of what the word is and how it can be used. So in curation, we have a separate category for food words. We have a separate category for animals. And this simple technique will help you in the long run by a lot because it increases your ability to remember these words and also your overall confidence. So how do I curate words? How do I put them in categories? We'll tell you what we used to do. So how many of you go shopping, let's say to a supermarket with your parents?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Some of you don't go. Okay, I think your parents do the shopping for you, but it's okay. If you do go to a supermarket, how many of you notice that there are a lot of food names? Obviously, we're surrounded by food, right? Now, what we used to do back in Australia, we used to go to the supermarket and there used to be different aisles. Each aisle had a lot of different names of foods. For example, we had the cheese aisle. And the cheese aisle had a lot of different cheese names, very strange ones. It's not just cheese. We had different ones like mozzarella, cheddar, brie, so many more. And what we did was we looked at these words and we'd note them down either on our iPad or on the notebook, and we'd go home and add them to this word bank that we were building. And this is essentially how we learned. It's not about opening a dictionary and trying to master every single page. We want your learning experience to be very real and also fun. So look for words in your day-to-day life, all around you, and try to use every opportunity to learn. All right, so are you guys clear with this first technique?
Does everyone understand curation?
Can I get a loud yes?
A louder yes, everyone.
I see a thumbs up, which is good. But we love energy, so can you guys give us a thumbs up and a yes?
Wonderful.
Okay, and for all of the techniques we're going to discuss, we're going to have like a short activity for each one of them because again, we want to really make sure that you can apply these techniques. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Now we have a small activity. This is a curation activity. For this activity, we would need 5 volunteers.
Can we have 5 volunteers, and we want different students coming up? We'll have most of you coming up, and we'll have a lot more activities too. So can we have a few students from the back? Please come up to the front.
Please come up.
We want just 5 volunteers. And can we have a huge round of applause? Encourage everyone who's coming up. Yes, I see we have 2 students. Please come up.
Yes, please come up from the back, everyone.
And don't worry, there's going to be so many more activities, so we'll definitely have all of you.
Yeah, please come up on
the stage. Yes, Janishika, you can come up. All right, and okay, I think we have 5.
I think we have 5 here.
All right, and don't worry, you guys will get a chance. We have many activities, but you can also participate, so try to do these activities in your head too, and the audience can also help the students on stage.
So this curation activity is pretty simple. On the right here, we have a lot of words, and on the left, we have their corresponding categories. We have categories, and all you have to do is put the word in the specific category. That's what you have to do.
Match them. All right, let's have our first student come up. Janishika, would you like to come up? Please introduce yourself. Tell us your name, your grade, and your school.
My name is Janushika. I am studying in 4th standard. My school name is Natala Vidyodaya.
That's good. Now let's start with the first word. We have appetite. What category does the word appetite go into? You want to think. We have 5 categories over here. Choose one of them. We have transport, herbs and spices, colors, food, and animals.
I think appetite comes over food category.
Food category, wonderful. That's the right answer. Can we have a round of applause?
And how many of you in the audience thought it was the food category too? Wonderful, great. Okay, let's go to our next student. Would you like to come up? Please introduce yourself.
My name is Vedant. I am studying in 5th standard. My school name is Sai Academy.
Wonderful. Now you can work on the second word. The second word is pronounced as llama. Which category? Animals category. Wonderful. Great job.
He answered that before we even got to the category. Wonderful. How many of you got this word correct?
A lot of you.
Great,
That's
great.
good.
So llama is an animal. It's a bit strange. There's 2 L's, but it's one of our favorite words because of how strange it is.
Now let's move on to our third person. Yes, you can come up.
Submarine comes in transport category.
All right, is that
Wonderful.
correct? That is correct. Most of you started
That's
clapping.
good.
Amazing. Submarine is in fact a type of transport. And where do submarines travel?
Water. That's
Underwater.
good.
That is correct.
Now let's have our next student. Yes. Could you introduce yourself, state your name, grade, and what school you are in?
I'm Shrindi from grade 6 Ology Tech School. You see, velvet comes in colors category because velvet is a type of color.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Velvet is in fact a type of color. And we've got one left, and I think it's very obvious. Yes, would you
Yes,
like to
go ahead.
introduce yourself?
Introduce yourself.
My name is Puvaneshri from grade 6 of Ology Tech School. So I think the answer for coriander is herbs and spices.
That is
Great job.
correct.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much to
Thank
all
you
our
so much.
volunteers. Can we have a huge round of applause?
A big round of applause for all the volunteers, please.
All right, so thank you so much, and I hope all of you have understood this simple but very effective technique of curation. Now, how many of you have gone through the word bank that we have provided to all of you? Great, I see some hands up.
Wonderful.
Did you guys notice that the words were given in groups? It was a curated word bank, that's right. So we wanted to explain the importance of why we did this, and it was because it's going to help you learn the words much, much easier.